I'm Jesse Grimes. Welcome back to the channel. In this video, I'd like to tell you all about my worms. This here is a kind of a small-scale, kitchen-scale worm composter. Composting with worms is a great way to handle your everyday kitchen scraps. It's a lot quicker than trying to build a compost pile, and the best part about it is you can do it continuously, whereas with a compost pile you kind of got to gather up enough material to get the pile to kick off, to get hot enough. You need enough mass. With a worm composter you can add a little bit at a time and the worms do the work for you. So this particular one here, this one's called a can of worms. It's a manufactured one from Australia. I just found this on Craigslist and we've been using it for a few months and it's been working really well. You can also, there's other manufactured ones like this, or you can make your own. Something as simple as a bucket or a bin or a bathtub even, or you can construct your own kind of tray system like this. So the way this one works is it's 3 of these trays, and they have holes in the bottom, as you can see. So those holes are big enough for the worms to travel up and down through the trays, but not big enough to allow the material to fall through. So when I started this one, I found a local person on Craigslist as well who has a worm farm, who is producing worm castings and worms themselves. So I was able to buy worms directly from him instead of, you can order them on Amazon or online and have them shipped to you as well. I wanted to get a good healthy batch of worms to get the thing started quickly. So I went to this guy and I purchased over 1,000 worms, about a pound of worms, and it came mixed in with some partially composted horse manure is what he was using as his base. So we put that in the bottom tray here, and then we started adding our food scraps on top. So how that works is the worms kind of hang out in the bottom tray in that partially composted material that they came in, and that's kind of like their home. So they hang out in there, they're comfortable in there, it's moist, it's dark, they're comfortable there, and then you put the food in the next tray and they travel up through those little holes to eat the food, and then if it gets too dry or too hot or too cold, they'll go back down into the bottom tray. And then once one of these trays fills up, let's say I get enough in here that I can put the next tray on, that bottom tray is going to be done by that time. They'll have completely turned it into worm castings, which is the best thing you can put on your garden. Another great thing about this one, I can show you, it has a tap on the bottom. So this particular one has this little tap here on the bottom. What that allows you to do is to harvest the worm juice. And this you can just add directly to your plants, just water your plants with it. This is full of all sorts of beneficial microbes. All that soil microbiology that actually feeds the plants, the life inside the soil, it's right in here in this juice. Those worms and the other life in this composter are helping produce that biodiversity. And that is what gives you healthy soil. So I can take this and put it on my garden, and it'll give kind of like an instant boost to all the plants and help just jumpstart that biodiversity and that health of the soil. So this is a really good design feature. If you had just like a bucket or a couple trays, just make some system to allow that water to fall through and collect it. So let me open this up and show you what's going on inside. So you need some sort of top layer to help keep it moist. We happen to use the coffee filters that are these big squares, and so when we're done with our coffee we just put it on, put the filter on, and it works really well. Otherwise you can use some newspaper or some cardboard or even just some dry leaves that you have. It's just important to keep them moist. So let me show you what's going on underneath here. Pull this back. You can see some of the worms already having fun in there. It's important not to add too much material all at once. It can take them a little while to get going, get their population up, but this one's been going a few months and they're doing pretty well. So dig in there just under the surface and there's thousands of them. So these are what's called compost worms, or red wigglers is what they'll sell them at a bait shop. Some people use these for fish bait. So in the wild, these worms, they don't live underground like earthworms. They live in the first few inches of mulch, like the leaf litter layer in a forest. And what they do is they break down that organic matter and help turn it into soil. So this black stuff that you see here, this is their worm castings. This is that kind of pure compost, and it's great for your garden. So they're going through and they're eating our food scraps, breaking it down, along with the help of some other bugs and molds and such. If you don't want it to get so moldy, you don't add as much food right away, but I don't mind it. it's all getting broke down. So I'll show you how we feed them. We just save our food scraps in a little bin like this. Eggshells are really good to help keep it from being too acidic. You got to break them up a little bit. The more you break up your food scraps, the quicker they'll eat it. So if you can blend them up, even some people do, and they'll break them down a lot quicker. But you say you just pull back the layer of cardboard or whatever you have, spread your material out over it, try to get it to lay flat, and then you just lay the cardboard back over and let them do their work. So it'll take them a few days to get through that. With us, 2 people in the kitchen, we can add about one of these every 1 or 2 days. So this population isn't quite big enough to handle all of our food scraps, but we're getting some really high value compost out of this. So let me show you what's going on underneath this tray here. Like I said, this is the top tray. This is where we add our fresh food scraps. And then underneath it, pull these apart. This is where the worms kind of stay when they're not eaten. There's a few of them in here, but as you can see now, this is almost pure worm castings. And so it's almost time to add another tray. Once this one fills up enough, I can add a tray on top of it and give them that room to move. But we'll harvest this when it's ready, spread that over the garden, and give it a really good boost of fertility. So if you do set up a worm farm, it's important to keep it in a place that doesn't get too hot or too cold. And also it's close to your kitchen. So we have this right outside the back door of our kitchen, right next to where we put the trash out. It's kind of a northern, easterly facing part of the house, so it doesn't get direct sun, and for most of the year it doesn't get too cold here in Southern California. If it does get too cold, you might want to move them indoors in the winter if you live in a cold environment. And in the summertime, if it gets too hot, you can pour cool water over the top of it and it'll help cool them off. They like to be around 75 degrees. So that's the basic idea on a worm composter. It's a great way to capture that fertility that's in your food scraps instead of just throwing them away, contributing to landfills, or trying to get a compost pile going. We don't have quite enough organic matter to get that compost pile to kick. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to support the channel, please go out to patreon.com/JesseGrimes and become a patron. I'll see you next time.